Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tailgate Outdoors right here on Sports Talk 105.1 and 790 AM. Big thanks if you're tuning in on those radio dials. Otherwise, don't forget, you can always check us out online, streaming us up at sportstalk1051.com. Got the app. Download that. Take it on the go. And, get your Alexa devices and say, Alexa, play WAYY. A big thanks for making us a part of your start for this weekend. And coming up, we're gonna catch up with DNR warden Jake Bolks. Now, he was on my morning show Monday through Friday, 6A to 9A, the Dan Casper show. But with it being 4th of July next week, we're not going to have an episode or show next Saturday with 4th of July weekend. But since we talked to Jake, we talked a little bit about, preparing for the 4th of July and such. So we're going to replay that so you can maybe hear some tips and some guidance and just, getting ready for the 4th of July weekend. And just as a reminder, too, the cool thing is if you ever have a question, like if you ever thought you had a question for a DNR warden or you always kind of wondered about, a scenario or something like that, you could text those questions to us on our hotline, 715-830-1912, and we'll get those to Jake, and he answers those every Thursday morning at 8:30 on the Dan Casper Show. So if you ever have a question, and those conversations I have with Jake on Thursday mornings, they are a part of the Tailgate Outdoors podcast. So if you miss it, you can always go back and listen to it. And we're going to have Jake on this particular program in the near future as well. But I thought, with 4th of July coming up, probably a good chance for the rest of you, maybe who didn't get to listen to Jake or have never heard our conversations before, to kind of get a feel for that. So we're going to have that coming up here in just a little bit. But, we've done a few episodes so far of Tailgate Outdoors, and, we've had different guests on and such. But, one question I've always asked, whether it was these guests or maybe some other people too, like especially when it comes to hunting and fishing in the outdoors, like we all have our bucket list items, right? We all have, like, maybe it's just the one thing that it's like the number one thing we want to do on our list, or maybe it's a top 5, or maybe it's just a few different items on such. And I've got my 5. Okay, I narrowed it down to 5, and that's kind of where I'm at, or where we're going to lead off with this episode, because the other part of this is, I've been asking guests this question, but I also want to ask you, the listener, what are your bucket list items for hunting, fishing? Maybe it's just an epic camping trip. Maybe it's backpacking or whatever the case may be. What are your bucket list outdoor related items? Now, all mine are fishing and hunting related, but again, it could be hiking a certain area, backpacking, camping, whatever the case may be. I want to hear from you. So you can either text it to us on that hotline number at 715-830-1912, or hit me up with an email, dan@sportstalk1051.com. Or check me out on Facebook, facebook.com/Casper Sports, and that's Casper with a K. Instagram at Dan Casper Sports, X/Twitter at Dan Casper. And don't forget, that is Casper with a K, not like the ghost. So I want to hear your bucket list items. I want to hear what's one thing that you want to cross off your outdoor to-do list. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to do my top 5 bucket list items, but it's always nice to have a list out there to maybe kind of have a goal to do and such. And, every time we're either watching an outdoor show or hear somebody having a chance to do that, you just kind of maybe get a little bit more motivated to do that and that. But without further ado, let's jump right into it. So I'm going to go from 5 to 1. I did rank mine, okay? So I did rank them, but number 5 for me, I would love to go salmon fishing in the Pacific Northwest. Or, if you want to throw Alaska in there too, I'd be A-okay with that. But I would love to go salmon fishing in the Pacific Northwest. It's just, maybe it's fly rod or something. Like, that's always intrigued me to go try that. And I was thinking about actually number 5. It was kind of hard to narrow it down to just one. Could have had a couple. I guess I could have put some honorable mentions on here, but just kind of thinking about being in the woods and being out in the water, whether it was at Alaska or the Pacific Northwest, just something about salmon fishing. And I'm like, I would love to do that at some point. So that's number 5. Number 4 for me is actually the next 2 are also fishing related here, which actually, I'll be honest, it kind of surprised me. I thought maybe I'd have a little bit more hunting ones, but when I was going through this, I'm like, nah, hold on a minute. Number 4, I would love to go to Montana and do some fly fishing. I would love to go. First of all, I have never been to Montana, so I would love to go to Montana. I want to go to Montana. That is definitely, when you talk about states to visit, I would love to go there and just visit Yellowstone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I would just love to go to Montana and check it out, but I would love to be able to go to Montana and do some fly fishing over there. So number 3, I love bass fishing. I've always loved bass fishing. I've loved bass fishing ever since I was a kid. Like, that was my thing. I grew up watching Bill Dance Outdoors. Okay, I loved Bill Dance Outdoors. And whatever Bill said to use, I would do. Spitting image, swimming image, the old Excalibur lures now, made by Hedden and such, but Terminator spin baits, whatever Bill Dance said to do, I did. I was just a Bill Dance numero uno, number 1 fan. So he's Tennessee, southern bass fishing and such. So I've always wanted to go down south, whether it's Alabama, Georgia, or even Tennessee, Texas, and do bass fishing in the southern part of our country. I mean, bass fishing is ever since I was a kid, I've loved bass fishing, and I still love bass fishing. But I would love to experience bass fishing in the southern portion of our country. Again, whether that's I could narrow it down to either Alabama or Georgia or Texas or something like that. I'd be fine with either one of those, and I'll throw Tennessee in there because just from an outdoor perspective, I always would have. I would love to visit Tennessee. I've never visited Tennessee either. So I would love to be able to do that and hook on, a big largemouth or maybe some pig smallmouth and such in the river systems and such. So southern bass fishing is number 3 on my list. Number 2, I want to go to either Alaska or Canada. Probably, if I had to narrow it down, I'd probably go Canada in this one, but again, I kind of lump them into one. Alaska or Canada to go do some moose hunting. Now, I just think that would be, I'll admit it, I'd be probably shaking and definitely have the butterflies rolling and the nerves rolling if there's a big old moose, in front of me and such. I probably would definitely have to have the rifle with. I love shooting my bow, but I think in this case I definitely would have to have the rifle with me. But just being able to go out in the outdoors and experience, the wilderness of Canada and or Alaska and such, and then, having a big bull moose, I think that would be awesome. So that's number 2 for me. And number 1 is probably like a lot of other people's number 1. Some of you listening right now might have experienced it, might have had been fortunate to do so. But number 1 for me is going to Colorado and elk hunting. I would love to be able to go to Colorado elk hunting. I think, there's 2 sounds. I mean, there's more than 2. There's 2 or 3 sounds for me when I think about the outdoors. A couple of the best sounds out there, like a loon on a lake, a turkey gobbling, and an elk bugling. Those are the 3 sounds that when I think about the outdoors, I'm just like, oh, that's so awesome. And I would love to be able to go to Colorado and go elk hunting for a big bull elk. I mean, that would be that's number one. That's always been number one for me for the longest time. So that's my list. If I did have to throw an honorable mention in there, it'd probably be like maybe some southern turkey hunting too. I love turkey hunting. I love turkey hunting. So I'd probably put that as an honorable mention. Again, maybe probably Georgia or such. So, but that's my list. Again, I want to hear from you. So hit me up on the socials. All right. Check me out. Facebook.com/Casper Sports. That's Casper with a K. Or Instagram at, Instagram.com, or look me up on the app at Dan Casper Sports. And X/Twitter at Dan Casper. That's Casper with a K. So, all right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to talk with Wisconsin DNR warden Jake Bolks coming up after these quick words. Let's maybe it's a big weekend too for a lot of people heading out to the outdoors, maybe doing a little fishing, maybe doing a little trail riding and such. It's a good time to catch up with our buddy Mr. Jake Bolks, conservation warden for the great state of Wisconsin. Good morning, Jake. How you doing, bud?
Morning. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Can't complain, man. Can't complain. So we got a lot to catch up on here this morning. So first off, let's start off with a little bit of, because I think it's probably a good reminder, Jake, with everybody on the water, boating, and that's the weeds on trailers, and making sure how important it is to clean your boats off after you take them off the water and at the boat landing.
Yeah. So a lot of people, you'll hear it called like AIS, or aquatic invasive species. But long story short, with it getting warmer, and I know it cooled off with this little storm front, but with it getting hot, the weeds are growing, people are dumping their boat trailers into the lake, and what we're seeing a lot, especially locally, is people ripping up and down the road with just like a big carpet of seaweed hanging off the back of their trailer. So a couple issues with it, the main one being, all these different plants and little snails and mussels and different aquatic invasive species can actually live for a pretty long time in those weeds, on trailers, in the water, in your live well or ballast tanks or whatever, which is how primarily these things are spread. So you really want to make sure that you're dumping all the water out of your boat, draining your prop wash area, pulling every weed off, and pulling off the weeds on the inside of your boat too, especially that, it's not duck hunting season, but duck hunters always have a massive amount of weeds inside their boat. But you can do that if you're snagging a lot of weeds when you're fishing. So mostly, we really want to protect the clean lakes. There's some lakes around here that not only DNR staff, but public volunteers and state systems have spent a lot of time clearing out the invasives, and it would stink to just have them be dumped in again because someone didn't clean out their boat trailer. So really a big thing we see around the 4th of July and any holiday weekend is getting all those off, as well as it's kind of a hefty fine. It's like a $344 ticket for pulling weeds away from the boat launch. So you really want to make sure to get that stuff off.
And, of course, Jake, we're into the 4th of July weekend, and you guys have Operation Dry Water that you're going to be making sure that the drivers are dry. What's that all about?
Yes, sir. So Operation Dry Water is a national kind of project that's been going on actually for I think 20, 30, maybe even 40 years, where it's kind of like in the car where, around 4th of July or any major holiday, they say drive sober, get pulled over or whatever. Same thing on the boat. Operation Dry Water is a lot of different DNR agencies across the country, as well as local sheriff's department and any other police department that wants to participate, with the major focus of being to keep boaters sober. So, unfortunately, most boating accidents, unless it's some sort of medical emergency, does involve alcohol use in some fashion. And it's unfortunate that, someone may die, they may kill their family members, or kill a random person in the public because they were drinking and driving their boat. So, this upcoming 4th of July weekend, and to be frank, any weekend or any time you're out on the boat, There's nothing illegal about having beer in the boat. There's nothing illegal technically about having an open intox in the boat. That's allowable. You can have your summer shandy right next to the steering wheel, but you got to be sober. It's the same rules. It's the same testing that we do on a boat at .08. So I really, really strongly encourage people that if you're going to drink beer on a boat or drink whatever alcohol, very much if you're the driver, limit yourself. Better yet, don't drink. And if you think you're going to get tuned up a little bit, just have someone or hire someone or have a friend or a family member that doesn't drink much drive the boat.
Jake, kind of going back a little bit to when you were talking about AIS and such, and obviously a lot of that is the weeds and focused on weeds, but what about transporting live fish?
Yeah, I've actually got a couple complaints about that recently. A lot of times it stems from people taking bluegills from one area to another area to use them as bait. So you can legally use like a bluegill or a panfish for bait, but it has to be on the same water body you catch it. So if you catch a little bluegill in Half Moon Lake and you want to use it for bait, you have to use it on that lake. You can't take it over to the Chippewa River or something like that. You can use it for northern on that lake. What we're seeing, so the law is that you can't transport any live fish away from the a water body. So you can't take bluegills from Half Moon and take them out to the NSP Dam in Chippewa and use them for bait or anything like that. Even if they're dead, there's other rules that apply with using dead native fish for bait. So the best thing to do is if you do plan on using fish for bait, always catch them in the same water body you're using it. So a lot of people like to do that on the Chippewa rivers or the Mississippi rivers or whatever. That's fine. Just catch it and use it in the same spot. Don't transport them.
So, staying with the using the bait, I know we've talked about this before and such, but so can you use bluegills? And also, I mean, does that count to your daily limit too, even though if you're going to use them as bait?
Yeah, no, great question. It does count as your daily limit, and it's got to be a legal fish. So if you caught 10 bluegill, and you're allowed to have 25, but you caught 10 of them and used them all for bait for northern or muskie or whatever, catfish, that's fine. You can do that day, but that's 10 of your fish. So if you went out and caught you could only go out and catch 15 if you wanted to bring them home for dinner or whatever the number is. So you can definitely use them for bait. They just have to count towards your daily bag limit. And also it just has to be a legal fish. So if there is like a size restriction, someone asked me if they could use largemouth bass as like a bait, and I was like, yeah, go for it, except for it's got to be a 14-inch largemouth bass where you want to use it, because that was the state regulation there, and that's a pretty big fish to be using as a bait. So you still have to follow those length restrictions.
Jake, switching over a little bit because I know fishing is the big topic, and obviously it's the season and such. But just the other day I was looking in our backyard, and first glance I thought it was a dog walking through, but it was actually a doe, and right behind it was two little fawns
sure.
following mom around. So been seeing a lot of those, a lot of the fawns making their waves and walking around the place too. Probably a good reminder about if you do see a fawn, like, don't touch it, right? Don't mess with it or anything like that.
Don't touch it. Don't mess with it. Exactly. So no, I'm glad you bring that up. Fawns are getting a little bit older, but they're still being dropped. They're still being born, and they're still pretty young. So I got a lot of calls about that, and I appreciate the calls instead of people grabbing them and feeding them milk and all this kind of stuff, because that's not good for them. 99.9% of the time, people have called me in the last 10 years, and I tell them to just leave the deer where it is, leave the fawn where it is, as long as it's not enclosed in a window well or in a gated fence or something. The mom will come back at night and get it, and every single time the mom comes back and gets it, or the fawn wanders off. So, they're just their defense mechanism is just to sit still no matter where they're at, and a lot of times that ends up being in our backyards or in the front of a business. But once darkness comes, they walk away. So don't grab fawns, unless they're laying in the middle of Highway 53 and they're still alive. Don't move them up. Just leave them where they're at. The mom will come get them, and if you have to do something or you think you need to intervene, call the DNR first, and then we'll talk it through and figure out what the best course of action is. So We're getting calls with people in them in their house, in their storm room, and someone brought one in the bar the other night. It's like, you can't be doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can't be doing that kind of stuff. Just leave them out. Even if they're in a campground, let them work their way through the campground. The mom will get them at night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, I've seen them, I usually hit the golf ball straight, but sometimes I might have to hit it in the rough, and, there's a fawn laying under a tree there, and it may be like, oh, well, did it get abandoned? Mom's out there somewhere. Mom's watching, probably.
She's out there. Their natural instinct is to get away from the fawn during the daylight, so any predators follow the mom around, and then they come back at night to feed them and move them and take care of them. So, and after a week or two, the fawns are moving pretty good, and they're moving about and out at night and stuff too. So you only usually see them when they're real small. But just as a reminder, just like we wouldn't want some random person coming and grabbing our kid if we walked away for a little bit from the playground. You don't just go grab a fawn or a baby robin or whatever the animal will be. Just let it be, and if it's still there 24 hours in the exact same spot, then call the DNR and we can work through it.
Jake, I know, with 4th of July weekend coming up next week and such, I don't know how much would this be your jurisdiction or anything, but like with fireworks and that, because, we're seeing the fireworks tents getting popped up and that, and I know Forest Service and that, but is there anything with your area, with the DNR related area, that you would mention when it comes to maybe firework usage?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So when it comes to jurisdiction, yada, 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 unless we're right next to them going off and there's complaints coming in and we can help the sheriff's office, it's going to be all sheriff's office issues or jurisdiction, and they'll take care of it. The main part where a DNR warden will be involved is if it's on any state land. So it's very clear in all the rules and regulations and whatnot that there's no fireworks allowed on any state property anywhere in the state. So campgrounds, state natural areas, state fishery areas, state forests. If it has the word state with it, don't bring fireworks. Don't let them off. If you got those little pop-in, little bang things you throw at the ground for your kids, and okay, that's not the end of the world. But
right.
If you're going to turn off, or if you're going to do any fireworks, I would not suggest doing that on state land. We don't have a lot of discretion with that. We're basically going to seize them and issue you a citation for it. So that's kind of where we get involved.
This might be a really stupid question, but I've seen it happen before. You can't light it off on your boat or your pontoons either, right? I know that's probably going to happen, but can you do that, or can you not?
Yeah, you'll probably end up with I was going to say some sort of reckless driving, which is like a crime, and depending on the situation, that might be applicable. But mostly, you're probably going to get tickets for littering, because unless you have a string tied to that thing and you're picking up every piece that pops up in the sky, if you're shooting it over any public water bodies or public lands, if you can't recover all the material, it's considered littering. So you'll probably end up getting a littering ticket, or a few of them. Every time you fire one off, it's like a $300 littering ticket. So not to be Mr. No Fun Police or whatnot, but it's just there's not a lot of discretion when it comes with the potential for injury or fire safety or everything else that comes along with firing off fireworks in public areas.
Jake, listening to you, people have piers. Piers are on the water. The water is public. They might own the pier. And we know they fire fireworks off their pier. Is that legal then, if they're firing it off over the water body, which the public owns, not the individual? No, technically it would be similar. So there's like an exemption that allows, lake owners or lake residents to put in a pier or a dock or whatever, as long as it's not navigational and it doesn't go too far out. There's some specific number on feet, but at the end of the day, it's just the same as lighting it off on a boat. If you go out on the edge of your dock and bring out the old mammoth mungo mega box and it just fires off for 10 minutes, and there's just a bunch of debris in the water and on your neighbor's land, and there's stuff going across the lake, then it's the same as littering, and just like if you're on the boat.
Mm-hmm. Jake, I know, just to maybe kind of wrap it up too, but trail riding, I got to imagine, is probably going to be a busy activity for 4th of July, and just summer overall too. And do you have any final thoughts on that, or just any final thoughts as we get into the 4th of July weekend next week?
No, the big thing is, again, sometimes in these conversations, it sounds like the no fun police, because we're saying don't do this and make sure you do that and whatever. And at the end of the day, our job is to make sure everyone goes out and has fun and is safe with doing it. So, I want, first and foremost, I want everyone to go out and have fun and enjoy the fireworks, and enjoy trail riding and boat riding and camping and doing whatever they want, in the natural resources of the state. But at the end of the day, the rules are there to keep people safe and to make sure that everyone, not just like the operator of a UTV, but everyone goes home safe, even the dog walkers on the side of the road, on the side of the road routes when people are riding it. So, when you go out, just, first and foremost, you're probably going to want to make sure your registrations are up to date. Otherwise, you're going to get pulled over. All the wardens are going to be working, all the warden supervisors and the sheriff's department's patrols and the PD patrol. Everyone's going to be working. It's a busy time of year. So just make sure you got everything up to snuff. Your registrations are there, your safety equipment, whether that's PFDs for a boat, helmets for machines, all your lights are working. You don't have too many crazy, ridiculous lights on your machines. Just if you kind of take the extra 5-10 minutes and scan through the regulations for whatever activity you're doing, not only might save you from a citation or whatnot, but it could help keep you safe or other people safe. So just spend a little time doing that, and then just have fun when you're out there.
Because that's a good reminder, I think, with the lights for the boats, too, because, depending on where you're watching fireworks, a lot of people might take the boat or the pontoon out on the water at night and watch fireworks, right?
Yeah, that's a lot. That's where you find most wardens on 4th of July is, we luckily get to see the fireworks, but then we're working, making sure people are safe on the way after it, because rightly so, and I understand, but people turn off all their lights when the fireworks go on, but then when they get back under operation, people forget to turn their lights on, or they have all the party lights and Christmas lights hanging off it, which are illegal, and it's an obstruction to the navigation, or people have their music cranking in the middle of the dark, and they're drunk driving, and we're trying to make sure none of that happens this year or every year or any weekend. So a lot of people do go out at night, and that's good, but just make sure to be safe and keep your boat lights on and keep your navigational lights on, and just know kind of where you're going on that water body.
Good thoughts there. Good thoughts. Hey, Jake, we appreciate it, man. And not only should everybody be safe, but you be safe out there, too, with this busy time.
It.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man. And have a good 4th, and we'll catch up with you soon, okay?
Yeah, you guys, too. Enjoy it. We'll talk in a couple weeks.
That is going to do it for us on this episode of Tailgate Outdoors. Again, a reminder, we will not have a show next week, July 5th, because of the 4th of July holiday. So I know a lot of you probably going to be spending some time in the outdoors. Maybe it's some camping, maybe it's some fishing, maybe it's some trail riding, hiking, whatever the case may be. Be safe, enjoy the outdoors. And as a reminder, too, if you have any luck, whether it's fishing or when it's hunting season, or maybe you just have a cool photo of you hiking or canoeing or whatever it is, whatever type of outdoor picture you have, maybe it's from a trail camera of an awesome, big deer, or just an awesome picture off your trail camera, share that with the rest of us, okay? Send those on over. We'll post it up on our photo gallery on our website at sportstalk1051.com. Just click on the Outdoors tab. And while you're there, don't forget to catch up on episodes of Tailgate Outdoors, whether it's the Saturday show or maybe our DNR chats with Jake Bolks that we have every Thursday morning at 8:30 on the Dan Casper Show. Tailgate Outdoors is also part of the Man Cave podcast, but you could subscribe and follow Tailgate Outdoors wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple or Spotify. If you just have a few seconds to give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, that would be awesome, because that helps spread the word of Tailgate Outdoors. Again, no show next week, so enjoy the 4th of July holiday. Be safe, have fun, best of luck in the great outdoors. I'm Dan Casper, and I'll talk to you on the next episode of Tailgate Outdoors.